Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 64. My name is Jamil Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as always. This week we are talking about part 8 of my $30 million tech sales course, absolutely for free for you, dear listeners, and for the watchers out there. Predominantly, listening because, it's just me standing in a fucking room talking to you guys. It's nothing that appealing. My face isn't that good. I wish. But so this week we're going to talk about the technology section, technology solutioning, the key things you need to understand about technology solutions, how to create them, what trends are relevant and pertinent in today's ecosystem, in today's society. I'm just gonna prattle through all the things that I want to teach you guys in the Tech Sales Academy. Tech Sales Academy, quick plug. Pre-sale is up for now. The pre-launch deal is up for now. You can get 50% off the pre-launch from now until the end of the year when I plan to release the course in full. So check out www.techsales.academy. Check out the free training that's up there. Click through, check out the pre-launch sale. It's a doozy, guys. It's a fucking doozy. If you're liking what I'm doing here, it makes sense to jump in, save some cash now, and get the full, delicious, polished product when it's ready. You guys would have noticed that I was away last week. There was no episode last week. Reason why? I needed a break. I have unfortunately cooked myself. I've just burnt myself out again. So ongoing listeners of the show would know that last year I went through a bit of a burnout. And went too hard, working too much on my previous business and then working a full-time job. It's happened to me again, guys. Unfortunately, one of the perils of being very good at your job in Cisco, in sales and doing a lot of selling, and then trying to build your own business at night is that you do too much and don't get enough rest. So I had to take a week off from everything, trying to get myself into better habits. There's a lesson in that for everyone, right? There's only so much time and energy in the day, and you need to respect that and think about the long game, okay? So we're back on path now. I'm going to do 3 more episodes, so 8, 9, and 10 over the next 3 weeks. Then I'm going to leave you to your devices for a little bit, guys. I'm going to go dark for a while so I can focus all my energy on building the course and getting a great product out there for you guys. I'm also going to be away for 3 weeks in the US and Japan, taking a break, plus also pitching part 2 of the course to my colleagues at Cisco, whilst I do my second Perfect 10 trip for top sales recognitions inside the company itself. Last week or the previous episode, I talked to you guys about potentially hitting that top 1%. Still don't know if I have as of yet. I have been nominated for Sales Champion. What Sales Champion is being recognized in the top 7% globally for sales performance. So I know that I'm in that echelon now, which is fantastic. There's also a chance that I could win my 3rd Perfect 10 top sales recognition, which would nab me another all expense paid trip somewhere else in Cisco's universe, which is fantastic. And if I get number 3 on that, that will mean I am by far and away the best salesperson inside Cisco's virtual team on a global basis, which is their growth engine at the moment. So, guys, if there's not enough fucking evidence that I know what the fuck I'm talking about here, please keep listening. Also, sign up for that pre-launch. Again, this course is going to be fantastic. It is designed for your best benefit. My mission is to make the next generation of trusted technology advisors and empower them with the skills and knowledge that I wish I had from day one. It's all here, all for you. You're getting a beautiful rough version of it, and then you're going to get a beautiful polished version of it very soon, all for your benefit, all to be of service to the world. So, without further ado, let's kick this episode off, have a bit of fun in the process. We're talking about technology solutions. The shit you're supposed to sell in tech sales. So, where do we start? With tech solutions. With technology solutions, they're tools, right? The reality of technology is that it's tools for humanity. All technology is tools for humanity. So when you really break that down, These tools are only for the benefit of people to solve a human problem, like we've talked about, and they're only as good as the person or as the person wielding those tools, right? You could give me a hammer and nails and I'm gonna fucking suck at carpentry compared to a carpenter, to a tradie, even a first-year apprentice, right? So people often get caught up in what is the best tool, what is the best solution, and the answer is the best tool is whatever is best suited to the skill sets and the requirements of the person that is going to use it, right? So there is no one technology fits all. There is no best solution. Even the best solution in market is irrelevant to a person that does not like it, does not know how to use it, okay? So it's always important to understand that there is no finite answer, right? As a salesperson, you are giving a customer your best solution for the situation in that current point in time. Obviously, when we're in technology sales, we're dealing with a life cycle or something to think about to solve their problem for the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. All right, that's the 3 to 7 years is the life cycle of most technologies. Generally 3 to 5 years. Right, you can get away with pretty much any technology for 5 years before you need to upgrade it, okay? So, to take a backward step, and I was going to talk about this in the business acumen section, which we'll do next week. My perception on technology is that we are entering the technocracy, okay? So what the technocracy is, it's a term that I've lifted from something else. So what the literal term of technocracy is it's defined as a form of government in which the decision makers are selected based on their expertise in a given area of responsibility, particularly with regard to scientific or technical knowledge. Okay? So that's basically saying if you are the Minister for Education, in a technocracy, you are a fantastic educator and probably an administrator of education and education programs. So maybe you're a fucking great principal, or maybe you've been on an education board for some time. Now, in an ideal society, we would have that, right? But unfortunately, our society and our political ecosystem is plagued with career-long politicians that have very little practical experience in the private realm, right? Maybe there are some, there's the occasional politician that enters from the private sector and wants to make change. In Australia, Malcolm Turnbull was, part of, I forget what he was now. He was a banker, right? He was a private equity wealth banker, had, hundreds, or not hundreds, but I think like $30 to $50 million in the bank before he got into politics. He was already wealthy, knew how wealth worked and how to manage it. He also knew, as a wealth manager, how to manipulate the tax code, which is what every person with wealth does. Because you look at your tax bill at the end of the year and you go, why the fuck am I paying this much tax to the government when I've worked so hard and the people that are going to use it are going to fucking suck using it, i.e. Centrelink, social support, that sort of stuff. And as someone that is in the top tax bracket now and has been for a couple of years, I'm starting to think like that as well. Nothing makes you more conservative than getting rich. Anyway, politics aside, how I define the technocracy has societies that will be entirely driven by its growth and adaptability to technology, right? Technology is our leverage machine in society. We are reaching a digital economy. We are digitizing. We are getting away from our physically based manufacturing capabilities, creating things, and are more moving into digital currencies, digital ecosystems, right? As we face now into a future of infinite energy and infinite compute, what do I mean by that? This is something that Elon Musk said a little while ago. I can't remember where I found it, but I should go find that quote again. But essentially, we are heading towards, with renewable energy, we are heading towards an energy source, solar, nuclear, hydrogen, whatever it may be, that is instantly replenishable, right? It's not like a fossil fuel or an oil or it doesn't have a life cycle. You can use the sun, it's gonna come out every goddamn day. Whatever, we have infinite energy coming towards us, right? So energy resourcing is not gonna be a problem in the future, even though we might get charged through the ass for it like we are currently right now. In the future as well, we are heading towards a future of infinite compute, okay? So what does that mean? So right now, thanks to something called Moore's Law, which we'll talk a little bit about in this course as well, Moore's Law determines that the computing power that's available to us in chip technology essentially doubles every X amount of years. I forgot how many years it is. I should probably put that in here, by the way. I'll look up more. Hang on, I'll just look it up now. Moore's Law. So the observation is the number of transistors in an integrated circuit doubles about every 2 years. So what does that mean? That means our computing power essentially at its physical material level doubles every 2 years thanks to the amount of transistors we can fit into a CPU chip. And now eventually, once we crack into quantum computing, which then just extrapolates our computing power and will basically dwarf what we can do now as far as processing data, we're essentially running in, and we have enough power to power these quantum machines. Our technology will take another fucking skyrocket, right? And we are now reaching an exponential age. What does that mean? The exponential age is a term I heard coined by Raoul Pal, that's his name, who is a leading macroeconomic advisor. And this exponential age talks about the amount of hyperscaling and hypergrowth that we're going to find in emergent technologies as individuals and societies and organizations, bet in heavy on technologies that have the capacity to adapt to a high user base very quickly. So for example, we talk about something like ChatGPT, which had 100 million users in a really fucking short amount of time, right? It blitzed all of the competition as far as getting new users onto it compared to previous platforms. And then Threads, that Twitter mock-up made by Meta, also hit 100 million users in a fraction of the time, beating ChatGPT. So the adaptation to new technologies, to making it accessible, to make it scalable, and then again, compounding the leverage that it creates in our society is going to get really fast, really quick over the next 10 to 15 years, right? We are heading into, an age where we are society, and our adaptation and our use cases and our ability to invest into technologies makes us the laggard, makes us the weak link in the chain to the progress of technologies in society. And this is already happening now, okay? For the most part, we don't like to talk about this, right? Because it puts a lot of people at unease and it makes them challenged about their own usefulness in society today. And I talk about this with cybersecurity in particular, is that humans are now the weakest link in technology, right? Like I said before, all technology is only as useful as the people that are using the tools, right? Think about, I'll give you a perfect example. My mum, my 65-year-old mother, has an iPhone 12, iPhone 11, an iPad, and an Apple Watch. Right? I have an iPad, I never use it. I don't have an Apple Watch, I have an iPhone. But she doesn't know how to use the goddamn thing, right? She just treats it like, all she does is go on Facebook and not even use it to make calls. Every time I call this lady, she never answers the phone. So in particular, when we talk about the older people, the generational gap in utilization of technology, that is where we're seeing the slowest occurrence or the least amount of effectiveness of technology in the way it's being used, right? And you might have seen memes and jokes about that, right? Where like a lot of millennials like to make jokes about their managers. How is my boss making 7 times the amount of me, but I have to show him how to use a PDF properly? Or, my manager, tells me what to do, but he's got size 96 font on his iPhone. Shit like that, right? Is that the way that we are more useful in society is driven by technology, and how effectively we use it, particularly in emerging technologies where it's all tech, right? Right now, I'm building a product in a digital ecosystem that has no physical interfaces, right? The most physical interface is you to the device. What I mean by that, everything is stored in the cloud, right? I use applications, I use software as a service to put together my platform for hosting the course. I market it all digitally on social media. I claim all my payments through Stripe, right? All of my things are based in software, in technologies that are outside of myself. It's not like I am making courses and printing out VHSs or CDs to sell to you good people. That's not how it works anymore. So our adaptability to technology and the gap in that is what holds most organizations back. So one of the biggest use cases for phishing emails, for scams, is always old people, right? Socially engineered emails or scams to target the lack of knowledge that people in society have, right? It's no longer about burglars coming into your house and seeing if you've unlocked the door anymore. It's about you speaking to it's about your dad or your mum pressing a suspicious link that looks like it came from Australia Post and then eventually taking your credit card details and sitting as malware on your computer or your device for a long period of time, enough to understand you, enough for you to send you an email or a link in the future from someone that looks like you know. You send them your financial details. Help, I need some money. I'm your friend from 30 years, give me some help. Okay, sure, here you go. There, your cash is gone. Game over. So that's where we're at in the ecosystem of tech. These are tools, but these tools are only as powerful as the person using them, but we need to get really good at using them and knowing how to create leverage with them to become masters of it and for it to not master us, right? So adaptability to new technologies, new processes, new ways of living, moving, shaking is one of the most essential skills that you're going to need to have, in society, regardless of whether it's professional or personal, for the rest of your life. In fact, I did remember I've got a piece of content from McKinsey, one of the big four what's it called? Consultant firms. There it is, the big four consulting firms that talk about the key skills that you will need to survive and to stand out in technology over the next few years. And I've got a bunch of that I'll put out as content during the pre-launch in October. Okay, so that's where we're at, right? That's the ecosystem we're at now. So how does that apply to business today? So in the business world, we all know by now that technology drives innovation, it drives efficiencies in business processes. So a lot of that efficiency and those processes, now those value pools are unlocked in software, not in hardware anymore. Essentially, as we've moved towards cloud-based technology, software as a service, all of the big tech companies now are focused on recurring software and recurring revenues generated from software purchases or subscription-based modeling, right? So that's based on solutions that are sold to you or you sell to customers on a per head basis, usually. So for example, Microsoft Office, if you want to get your emails and everything set up, the most common one is a Microsoft E3 license, and that gives you your emails, it gives you Microsoft Office, it gives you Intune, which is mobile device management, it gives you access to SharePoint, which is, access to your internal documents or your intranet, right? A whole slew of productivity tools for one price. There you go, Mr. Customer. And that's the standard now, right? So all the big tech companies now generate the majority of their revenue from this style of consumption, right? Which is OpEx-based, subscription-based modeling. So we'll talk a little bit more about CapEx versus OpEx and the trend around that in the business acumen segment as well. Right now, technology, how it works is great hardware facilitates great software, right? So Realistically, how technology is sold and maintained nowadays is if you buy a software product and it doesn't need any infrastructure, you can sell it software as a service. Fantastic. You've got a massive database somewhere or a massive server farm and you're selling your application and scaling it out. And most of the value that we have in today in the digital economy is based on the front end. So when we talk about the front end, that is things that face customers. You know, it could be web servers, it could be websites, right? It can be e-commerce platforms. So that's where most of the value is exchanged nowadays, in a great user experience on a great website for the most part, or in most of your customer experience when you are selling, with organizations sell to customers. The best way to improve those processes is through improving internal processes that facilitate tools that facilitate the better external process for the customer, or to add new features to your value proposition, generally digitally nowadays, that make the sales process easier or the customer experience a lot easier. Okay? So that's the front end of things. The back end, which is the primary focus of infrastructure, which is where I've spent most of my time, if not all of my time, in tech sales, is selling infrastructure and the essential services that are based around that, right? So the thing with front end is that it's very, very valuable stuff, but it's sexy, but there's a lot of competition for front end, right? So everyone's trying to sell the latest app or the latest, technology solution, the latest gadget, or, digital marketing is a very, very noisy market because everyone's got ways to improve your SEO or to improve, your digital sales funnel and improve your website user experience so they stay on your website longer and you don't have people abandoning their shopping carts that you buy stuff with all the time, right? The back end is more of infrastructure focus, where that's more of the physical, the more hardware focused aspects of a business and organization and technology. So this is the not so sexy stuff like network connections and servers and access points and all the hardware focused based things. But this is the body, this is the chassis of where all these great applications and services sit. All of your, every single application you use on your phone sits on a server somewhere that is connected by a data network, right? That has data protected by firewalls, right? So these infrastructure things, they're not necessarily seen, but they are extremely important to the running of a business. And that's why I liked working in infrastructure and still sell servers now, because it is a high demand solution, right? Everyone needs servers. Everyone needs network connections. Everyone needs devices. Everyone still needs quality hardware to host the software that you see and experience every single day. Right? And you understand that inherently because you have the newest iPhone and the newest Samsung, right? And you've got the latest gadget in your hand to give you the best application experience possible. So with this shift in technology, right? We're approaching, we're an application-centric, digital-first ecosystem now. That's our society. And with this mad rush to the front end, to the pretty light and the colors and the applications, right? And the ubiquitousness, right? It is industry standard now, particularly for the younger generations, to have great technology at your fingertips when you're working in business, right? So that means, I now have a MacBook. After years of having a shitty Lenovo laptop, I now have a MacBook to do my daily work in. Right? And many people expect the same when they're in their jobs. Most organizations expect their company to provide them a phone. Because why? It's a touch point between them and the business. It contains critical and sensitive information because most of the work that you will do is integrating with other people and collaborating with other people inside your business through email, through chat, through Teams, whatever it is, and that is confidential business data, right? Because that's the inner workings, that's the sausage factory of this business. And the leaking of that can expose organizations for a variety of reasons. So so the expectations inside an organization by the end users, the people that work inside the company, their expectations for technology to do their problems has increased. And so has the expectations of a better user experience and a better customer experience from the external customers of an organization, i.e. their actual end customer. That's also very important to note, right? And we'll talk more about this in the business acumen aspect, is that there are two types of customer in every organization. There is the internal customer and there is the external customer, okay? And we're all generally focused on the external customer, particularly for us who are in sales, right? So, of course, because we're selling to our customers. But what you have to understand is that your customer has a customer, internal and external, right? And that understanding your customers' customers is extremely important to know how your technology adds value to them and their impact on the organizations itself, right? It's not about just selling tech to the guy that's in front of you. They have to provide a reason why they're buying this technology, the benefits it will create, and what boxes they are ticking inside the organization to facilitate better productivity or better solutions into their internal customers, i.e. their colleagues and the team members that they are trying to look after. And very often, the internal customer, which is colleagues inside the business, is the primary customer of the IT stakeholder in the business, right? So making sure that their internal customers, i.e. the people in marketing or in finance or the executives or the people on the front line in the shops, they're the internal customers of that business you're selling to. So very often the IT manager is there to facilitate those experiences and the technology is meant to enable them as opposed to their external customer, right? So yeah, that's a bit on the knowing your customers, internal and external. But that's very important to understand the two types of customer, because with this macro trend of technology being the driving force in society today, the expectations of IT have skyrocketed in the last 15 years, call it 20, right, in the last 2 decades, where by default, the next generation, or the current generation of the youth, the Ys, the Zs, they expect a great digital first experience with tools to enable them from day dot. So the expectations of the increased demand of expectation from technology and IT increases, right? And now one of the big challenges for IT stakeholders, IT managers and leaders in today's organizations is that, particularly the ones that have been there and are seeing this transition shift and these expectations rapidly increase, is they don't know how to make those things happen. Because maybe you've got an IT manager that was just a network administrator that, I can look after servers, and then he became an infrastructure manager and he's like, I get how this whole business works and I know all the things, I know how all the tools work inside this business, who then got promoted to an IT manager. But they might not understand the macro trends and the technologies that are out there that could help their organization work even better. Or they might feel threatened by the fact that you're trying to sell them a technology that they don't know about. And because they are not aware of it and they're not comfortable with it, and it threatens their identity as an IT manager to think that they're comfortable in their roles, they might not be susceptible to it, or they might not warm up to it, right? So as we increase this demand for a better user experience and become more front-end heavy, the requirements, the expectations of those teams to deliver that also increases. And so organizations, IT departments, are very focused on improving the end user experience. And that is done with quality infrastructure at the base, but what they need to do is focus less on maintaining that infrastructure, right? And focus less on what we call keeping the lights on, and focus more on delivering great end user experiences. So what we were talking about before is this quantum shift in expectations for IT managers nowadays is to deliver more and more services to the end user. Back in the day, even like 10, 15 years ago, right? Most IT managers and administrators were pushed to the side of a business, the literal basement dwellers of an organization that finance was like, what the hell does IT even do? Like, how does a server even work, right? They're administering servers. They're making sure that applications are running. They are troubleshooting end user devices such as, what's my password? And how do I do this on my computer? Or what's this thing that's popped up, right? A lot of IT's function back in the day, and still to this day, is about maintaining a positive technology experience inside the organization, making sure that the technology is enabling the internal customers and the end users of that organization to do their job better. So that keeping the lights on, that could be things like maintaining your servers, right? Or having to do the patchwork and the firmware updates and all the little maintenance things, the speeding and the feeding and the watering rather, of servers, of endpoints, of firewalls, of routers, of switches, right? Making all the connectivity orchestrate together. A lot of that takes a lot of busy work that many people new to technology sales do not understand. And I certainly don't understand the intricacies of it either, but I understand the challenges of what that means as far as taking their focus away from delivering a good experience because they're too busy making sure that there's enough firewall ports open or making sure that the traffic is routed across the network in an efficient manner, right? So this is when the deep technical stuff gets complex. And this is where you bring, if you're the people person in tech, which is what I'm trying to teach in this course, that's when you bring your nerds in, your engineers, your domain specialists in to have those conversations about how you solve those problems. But realistically, yes, with the demand in expectations increasing, that means that IT managers now focus on those experiences. The gap in their knowledge is how to deliver those experiences more efficiently. How do they solve problems inside the business? How can they add to the businesses and the organization's unique value proposition in market? That's what differentiates them from the competitors, and enhance that with technology. Now, that's often a collaborative effort with IT at the core. That's usually driven by the marketing team, the product management team, some sort of operations team to improve those aspects, right? Usually with a project-based system where they will, how do we improve X amount of product or Y amount of product? Or you might be dealing with an organization that has a product development team and has a bunch of engineers and devs, right? Software engineers, software developers who are focused on creating and improving their proprietary product, their proprietary platform, and improving that experience. And that's where IT, again, has a more intense hold, or is very, very important to that organization, right? So they're working in lockstep with the other business units, operations, marketing, finance, etc., to deliver those experiences. Because now IT is the core of most organizations, right? It's all being driven by its ability to invest in technologies to enhance its users' experiences. Now, this has a framework associated with it, basically. I got this from a gentleman called McCall. And it's basically, he calls it the IT hierarchy of needs. And McCall's IT hierarchy of needs basically is a framework, a triangular framework, where it explains the base, right, of, again, where IT sits in a customer's or perception in the organization. By default, now, with the way that we are with this technocracy, most customers are using IT at the top of that pyramid as a differentiator to their unique selling proposition, adding value to the market, to their end users' experience, to their customers' experience, right? There are very few organizations that lower in that hierarchy of needs, in that pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is literally just keeping the lights on, right? Is making sure that end devices work, making sure that, the servers are working, that there's uptime, making sure the connections are there working, right? So some examples of that, of organizations that would have different perceptions in the hierarchy chain. So at the very top of that pyramid would be something like a social media platform, right? TikTok would be at the top of that list. That is using technology to differentiate itself, right? Through algorithms and AI to differentiate itself in the market with macro trends, and what it pushes out to you as an end user as what you should be doing, doing your funny trends and dances to make sure that you feed the algorithm and be a slave to the system. And that's using technology in that way. The bottom of the pyramid, an industry that has those examples, would be something like logistics, right? So truckers, tradespeople, right? The trades are very low adapters of technology because their technology is primarily focused on building the stuff, or the trucks that get the shit from point A to point B. That's where their investment in technology is, right? It's in vehicles, it's in drills, it's in, nails, as opposed to computers and whatnot. So generally the construction industry, the manufacturing industry, logistics, areas where there is already capital intensely invested into the process, in the technology that drives the processes of what the business is, i.e. the trucks and the drills and whatnot, they kind of look at they look at IT as going, well, I don't fucking use a computer, mate. I use a fucking drill. But, the more modern organizations that build a real business around their core function, right? They understand, they are finding ways that technology can uplift the experiences by driving efficiencies in the business, improving processes, that sort of stuff, right? But again, they're usually on the low end of adaptability to new technologies. So that's the hierarchy of needs, and that's the shift that we're seeing in society today. Now, with that differentiation, right, that at the pointy end of the hierarchy of needs is that competitive differentiation in market that technology enables. The CTO, the Chief Technology Officer, the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, the head of IT, whatever it is, the IT department, based on what we've already talked about, where the human element of technology is the laggard. It's the weakest point in the adaptability and the uptake of technology to deliver better efficiencies and better outcomes in a business. The number one KPI for CTOs, for anyone in the technology aspect of a business, is adoption, right? How well are your people using your new tools to their maximum benefit, right? At the core of it, like I said, all technology is tools to solve human problems. So how do they know how to use it effectively, right? And that's what keeps a lot of technology managers up late at night. Very often they're adapting to new technologies because that usually invokes some sort of new processes that they have to adapt to. And because there's so many risk factors associated with, changing technology processes, because they can change the flow of a business and the way it flows, its information, its resources, right? It's a very high risk procedure. It can go wrong in a lot of ways very quickly. And that's what keeps customers late up at night, particularly in the IT departments. And there's a couple of ways that you can get, there's like some of the biggest ways is cultural adaptation to the technology. If they don't like it, right, it could be the best, most whiz-bang solution, but if they don't like it, it doesn't mean shit into the organization, and that organization's invested millions of dollars into a technology that its people refuse to adapt and use, right? And yeah, cultural adaptation is one of the biggest inhibitors of technological success and improvement in an organization. And I'll give you a great example. One of my customers, Save the Children. One of the biggest charities in the world. You probably would have heard of them. I did a case study with them at Telstra Enterprise a few years ago, the year that I got made redundant, of all things. And understanding their primary demographic was extremely important to the way that we delivered the technology solutions that worked. So the particular use case is that in the corporate, they had basically two main divisions. They had corporate and they had retail. So in the corporate division, that's where a lot of the executive and corporate functions are, fundraising, delivering programs to support the children, the families in need, those sorts of things. In their retail division was all of the op shops that they used to own, or they still own, about 150 in Australia, right? All the op shops. Now, there's two big differences in this organization. In the corporate world, again, these are professionals. They've usually been adapted to technology. They understand how software works. They're much more willing to adapt to new technologies and processes, and are probably often asking their IT teams for further investment in technology to help enhance the deliverability of their programs, of their outcomes, whatever they're doing in their business. On the other hand, in the retail shops, 150 of them, let's just say, the primary demographic of the people working in those retail shops were old people, were seniors, boomers, people that are volunteering their time to donate to charity, to work in these shops. Maybe they're getting paid very little, or they're just donating their time to be useful so they can feel like they're helping charity and doing a community service, right? So in the retail shops, their adaptability to technology is close to none, because they're afraid to pick up a mobile phone. Some of them don't even have mobile phones. So the technology that had to be in the retail shops compared to the corporate office was vastly different. In fact, in the corporate office, we installed Microsoft Teams into their environment, right? So they were using the soft phone function, so you could make telephone calls from the web app, from the app on your phone, from the app on your desktop, and predominantly people using Teams for video chat anyway. No phones needed. In the retail shops, we had to install IP-based phones, right? Like your regular telephones with big buttons on them and a big interface on them, because the old people, the seniors that were working in these shops, had zero technical capability. And to move them from, old school analog telephone, those old yellowing cream handsets with the buttons, right? Maybe even the old rotator dial, to move them to a technology that they could use and understand. That gap, right? That gap between what they currently know and what they need to adapt to needs to be so small to make sure that they can use this new technology properly. And that's what keeps a lot of IT organizations up late at night. It's generally the, so hang on, what am I saying with this? There's usually the laggards, and the laggards in the cultural adaptation to the technology are often in positions of power, executives, leaders, or, again, are there because they are cheap free labor, and you don't want to impinge on them changing their behaviors because they're already doing you a favor by coming and working for you for fuck all anyway. So that's a big challenge for a lot of organizations, that adaptation. So based on that, how do you get around that? Particularly when you are selling tech and you are trying to sell a newfangled technology, or you're trying to knock out a competitor to install your own solution into an ecosystem. Well, the best way to do that is to implement onboarding and education and a good optimal onboarding experience into your solution, okay? So when, for example, I work at Cisco, my main competitor, in the server business, my main competitors are HP and Dell. So if I know that that these are the first times that these customers are using Cisco infrastructure, which has a different way of working, has a different operating system and a different way of working, in my deals, I will usually write off training, some sort of workshop, right? Any sort of onboarding solution that is provided via Cisco or via a third party. And usually I will bake that cost into the solution so that the power users, the technical stakeholders of the business, the people that are actually going to use this technology the most and need to understand it the best, can be enabled on it, and we reduce that learning curve and the friction, what we've talked about in previous weeks, the friction of that experience to get them from point A to point B. And that is all done through education. That is all done through exposing them to the new technology, contextualizing everything they might know, which they have a lot of context anyway because they're IT professionals and they get it, but contextualizing what they know and adapting it to these new processes and solutions. Okay? So building in education and enablement for the power users. If you need to create widespread change, then usually a lot of organizations will have wikis or they'll have online resources. Maybe it's a bunch of how-tos, usually made by power users or key stakeholders inside the business. And again, there's usually a lot of professional services that organizations provide that can help with this sort of stuff. So making sure that technology is paramount and the adoption of it is the most important thing to the organization, to your key stakeholders in that business. And what we kind of said before is there is no perfect solution, right? That can be a concern of like the adoption is a concern, but realistically, in all honesty, most organizations will use 10 to 20% of the actual function of the technology, right? They will use it for its core function, for its bare minimum. And, they might find a few new perks that are useful, and that's about it, right? There was this great phrase that I will steal from someone that I know, this guy called Paul Xavier, who is one of the mentors in the mastermind that I was talking about. I was talking the other day about creating the course. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask, which is a terrible idea. But he had this great quote that I'm going to steal off him. And he said, where is it? It says, people are like water, right? They will focus on what they are, by default, they will trickle down through the path of least resistance, right? So they will take the easiest, most simplistic path to get there, right? So what does that mean? What you tell them or what they know they need the thing for, they will use it for that. That is their primary, and that is 80 to 90% of the experience. And then any additional features or the buzzwords or the additional perks, they might go, ooh, that's useful, but they will only use a fraction of that functionality, realistically. And the reason why I say this is because there's a great analogy that is going to be in the course, right? And it's the microwave analogy, okay? You think about the way you use a microwave. All everyone ever does in a microwave is push 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, right? The most basic function in a microwave. How many minutes is this going to heat my food up for? That's it. 1% of people use the defrost function. Maybe they use the defrost function, but there's the chicken function, there's the popcorn function, there's the fish function, right? People have designed and put time into trying to understand what is the best practices for putting fish in this microwave, and how much we think it'll take X amount of times at X amount of degrees. to get this thing done for you, done right. So you don't over defrost your chicken and make it gets half cooked and it's kind of fucked. All of these things, all of the design that we put into these additional functions to wow people, unless they have a specific reason or they discover it themselves and they see the value in it, they won't fucking touch it, right? Millions of microwaves in the world. Think about all the places that have microwaves. It's just food in, close the door, 30 seconds, another 30 seconds, another 30 seconds. That's what I do. That's what everyone does, right? Think about your iPhone. Your iPhone is a supercomputer that has fantastic cameras in there, right? Has fantastic hardware, enables all of the software from all around the world in one place just for you. But when you upgrade it, you don't understand the aperture and the difference of the camera, right? You don't understand the difference in megapixels or the difference in the apertures of how much more light that lens can bring in. You don't understand how much additional RAM it has. You just want to know how much space does it have for my applications, and will it fit all my photos on there, and will it stay the exact same experience as I did in my last phone? That's it, right? People go, people use their phone and not even realize that there is a file server. You've got a file function just like you've got on Mac or on Windows to store documents and basically use your hardware, your phone and its storage like the file system on Mac or Windows. Almost nobody ever uses it that way. Only the power users do. Only people that care to invest the time in how to use this more efficiently, right? And this microwave analogy, this gap, applies to every piece of technology that you use at any given time, right? Your PlayStation, it plays games, right? But you can connect it to other things. You can use it as a media center. You probably don't use it for that, right? Your TV has different sorts of functions in there. You never fucking care, right? There's always a manual that you never read and no one gives a fuck about it except for the main thing that it's there to do. And if there's anything else that happens, that's upside, but right? So it does not really matter what your technology does or is, it's there to do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you tick every box for the customer. Are they happy with it? Great. That's really it. You don't control anything else. And early in the sales experience, when you are selling to customers and you are focused on the end user experience like that, you might care about that a lot, but after 10 years in the game, I know that's not my problem, how they use it. Are they happy with the solution that I've sold them based on the requirements? Did I tick their boxes enough for them to buy the solution? Yes. Did I do that in an honest way that solved their needs as best as I could? Yes. There you go, Mr. Customer. I've done my job. And if you need more help using the tech, I've got resources. I've got a technical team. There's somebody else here that can do that, help you do that job for you that's better qualified than me. I'm on to the next sale or to keep nurturing this relationship so you can buy more from me and developing the perception of being a trusted technology advisor. Okay? Whew. Now, we've talked about the macro trends of technology. There's some, I can go deeper on this, but I won't because this is just high level shit for now. So with technology solutions, what is hot at the moment? What do customers want to see and hear about their technology that's of value to them? All right? So when you sell something to a customer, you don't want to sell them a product, right? A product is singular, right? A product ticks one box. A solution ticks all of the boxes. And ideally, it ticks all of the boxes for the life cycle of when it's useful, right? You want to sell solutions as much as you can, not a product, right? And the reason why that is because if you solve the problem for the customer and they are happy with it, then there's no reason for them to go out to market or to add more into it. And if they feel like they have to add more into it, they devalue what they've invested in you already because you haven't solved their problem. So customers nowadays are looking for integrated ecosystem solutions, okay? So just as we talked about in previous episodes where we all exist in an ecosystem of varying degrees, so do our customers and their environments. Their IT environment is an ecosystem, right? And like those ecosystems, they're trying to find balance and integration, and again, also minimize the friction inside that ecosystem to get that things humming and going along just fine, okay? So with the idea, particularly when you are selling software or you are selling a platform, right? You focus on solutions that integrate as much of the problem for as long as you can, because you want to create stickiness in this solution, right? Software and the platform economy, which is something we'll dig into a little bit now. Software and platforms are all about solving as many problems and keeping them in one place so they have no reason to leave the platform, right? A platform is a base upon which you can build, right? Just like your house is on a concrete slab, that is what organizations, tech organizations want to be. They want to be that concrete slab that you can't get off of and don't want to, because everything that you've built on top of it is there, and it would be a fucking nightmare and a pain in the ass to shift off it and start again, right? So this platform and the platform economy has popularized in the last decade. And that started with social media platforms, and now smart people in ICT and technology have adapted the platform economy into their technology solutions every day. And the kings of those are Apple and Microsoft, right? They are the kings of integrated ecosystems. On the Apple side, Apple is the king of consumer tech, right? Microsoft is the king of business tech, okay? So Apple is the king, and this is the example of what the integrated ecosystem solution looks like, right? iOS, the mobile platform, Apple's now operating system platform, is a contained ecosystem of products and services, and they have done a fantastic job of locking you into that by creating a singular, or as close to a singular integrated product experience, from iPhone to Mac to iPad to whatever Apple device you've got, Apple TV, right? Under the domain of your user, your Apple ID itself. And within that, they have securely integrated all of the external data and the interfaces between you and the outside world that you need to interface with, right? i.e. the App Store, right? i.e. keeping your data private and protected and really focusing on that as a differentiator in market, which is a very strong differentiator, right? That they keep all of their data encrypted. iMessage is very hard to penetrate as a platform. And you know, they are by and far the most secure platform in comparison to Android. And because they are able to bring all of the experiences that you need, well, they invented it and became the category king of the mobile device experience, which is now the primary consumer of data and information in the information technology ecosystem is primarily mobile device based, which is thanks to Apple. Because they dominated that from day one, from the app, thanks to the iPhone and the invention of smartphones and the ubiquitousness of smartphones, they have created this system where you don't need to leave and you are happy to be there, and you just keep buying the same expensive iPhone every 2-3 years, right? You consume all of your software, the majority of your software on your mobile device, your Spotify, your YouTube, your social media, all integrated, right? You download any cool new apps through the App Store, and they make sure that those applications have been vetted, and they've got, you know, thousands of developers making sure that data is secure, right? They have created a convenient ecosystem that is very hard for you now to switch over to Android to, because you can't be fucked. Because all of your friends, you've got group chats with all your friends with, on iMessage. And, you've already got all these applications you have to buy again by going to Android. Fuck that. So by piecing as many pieces of the puzzle of the customer experience into one place, Apple has dominated that market. And they are the king of it, and that's why they're the world's most valuable company, right? The four biggest tech companies in the world, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, all have platforms, right? Apple has consumer tech, Microsoft has business tech, which we'll talk about. Amazon has retail tech as well as AWS and has dominated the retail market. And then Google has basically the internet, right? And now it has YouTube as well. So it's carving a huge part of the digital media empire as well, right? So on the Microsoft side of things, in B2B tech, which is where they're the king of, it started with email. It started with Outlook. It started with them also getting into the consumer technology space early with the operating system Windows 95. And then they went, hey, you need Windows? Well, you need Windows for your business servers now. And hey, you want to use email? Well, you can use Outlook and you can use Hotmail. And these are business-to-business email servers, and that's the primary platform for you to communicate via business, which is email, right? When you start a business, you get two things. You get an email, you get a domain, right, at jamilraymond.com, and you get an email. So you can communicate with people. To the absolute basis of internet communication technology is email, right? And because they had those kernels in there from day dot, and then expanded on their technology offering to now include collaboration with Teams, to include database management with Power BI, to create an intranet, so a database of internal business information with SharePoint, to having cloud servers and cloud technologies with Azure. Now they've added to their security portfolio with Azure Active Directory, and they've changed the name of that. But again, they have created this comfortable, easy to use technology ecosystem that is extremely hard to avoid or get out of. I mean, it would be like 95% of the world uses Microsoft email in business to business. Think about that. Outlook, or some variation of Outlook, is being used by 95% of businesses in the world. And I would dare say that 99.99% of businesses in the world are using some sort of Microsoft product in their ecosystem. They have to, it's unavoidable. Okay? So, what is it by, again, trying to include as many functions and minimize the friction through a consistent user experience, and that you don't have to make customers go elsewhere to solve the problem of what they need to do in their business for it to function. They've introduced product solutions into a license-based model, right? You pay $25 a month or whatever it is for the Microsoft E3 license, and that comes with Office, that comes with Teams, that comes with email, that comes with SharePoint. It comes with all of those things that businesses need to function. It is essentially infrastructure now, right? You cannot exist without it. And because they've expanded on that, and because customers, like we just said before, are like water. Humans are like water. They will flow through the path of least resistance, the most convenient, the most easiest way to get things done, which is what we talked about in previous episodes. Convenience is the superpower. It makes it very compelling and very easy for these organizations to stick in this product ecosystem and stick what they're familiar with, because it minimizes the risk in these solutions going wrong, and they know how to make this shit to work together anyway. So by understanding that, understanding the ecosystem play and how your technologies integrate into a customer's ecosystem to minimize the friction in that experience, how it can share data safely, how it can integrate processes in the customer's organization, and how it can enable that, how can it ingest data through APIs, right? Maybe there's a bit of middleware, or maybe you need to do some work in integration work and teach them as part of the onboarding process how to, build those products and features into your platforms from their current environment. That's valuable shit. You need to talk about how your solution is a valuable piece to their very large puzzle and how it contributes to the overall ecosystem, right? Cisco, as an example, is now entering the platform ecosystem way too fucking late, in my opinion, by introducing something called Cisco Networking Cloud. So Cisco is the most trusted networking brand in the world, bar none. So what they have done, what they had though, is a lot of products that did not integrate with each other. So they had multiple interfaces, they didn't communicate well, which created this disjointed customer experience. And you're like, there's another tool, or it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. Customers nowadays expect, if I'm buying something from you, it all works together, right? It all works together. There's not these islands anymore. Everything is converging, right, and congealing towards singularity. That's another macro trend that we've got. You would have heard of the singularity. Everything is about minimizing the friction and eventually all coming together as one, okay? So how your technology integrates, how it comes together, that is one of the most potent and powerful logical and technological ways to develop and communicate the value of your solutions to customers, right? When we talk about two sides of selling, there's the technical and there's the emotional, the professional and the personal, right? It's more about the technical and personal side of things. This is the technical side. How does your technology integrate? How does it simplify? How does it work all together in the ecosystem to make that environment sing? That's important. But the simplicity of integrating and having less mental capacity, less brain power for your IT users, for the decision makers, the technical decision makers, the technical implementers of your solutions into their organization, into their ecosystem, the simplicity of that, where they don't have to learn too much, right? That's the personal part of it. That's the non-technical side of it. That's the emotional side of the sell, is to go, whew, I don't have to do a fuck ton of work to get this solution in and make it work, because it's just going to click in with the rest of my stuff as we've told them as salespeople, right? So that's, a good understanding of the ecosystem of tech, what customers are thinking about, what is important to them, right? So understanding that businesses are really focused on differentiation. The best businesses in society now are focused on differentiation using technology. That's only really the most important way to do that is for their people and their users to adapt to this technology, adoption being the number one KPI. How well are these people using their tools to solve their problems, right? And you're helping by highlighting how the tools help the humans solve the problems. How they do that is not your responsibility. You've told them the ways, their adoption of that, if you can add to the adoption of that and enable that, great, but that's the function of the organization that's buying from you to do that. But if you can help that process, it puts you in a good place. It increases the value of your offering, and therefore it minimizes the leverage and the impact of the price, right? Again, we are always trying to tip the scale between price on one side and value on the other. And if the price outweighs the value, they're not gonna buy it. So your responsibility as a salesperson is to create leverage in the value side of things to make it a no-brainer when they see the price, okay? I'm not gonna go into the nerdy shit like law of thermodynamics, talk about Moore's law, singularity, we've already talked about that, infinite power, we've already talked about all that stuff. So in technology solutions, just to wrap this segment up, right? We talked about the life cycle of technology. Anywhere from 3 to 7 years, usually. I've sold technology that is good for 7 years. It could be just a couple of switches, right? That can last there for a while. So, technology has a lifespan, just like we do on this planet, right? And generally, with the rampant pace of acceleration of technology, 7-year life cycles are only really common in the infrastructure side and real infrastructure side of things, the boring stuff like switches and routers, right? That's the stuff that I sell. Generally, it's 3 to 5 years. Most software is sold on a 3-year contract, 2 or 3 year contract. In the B2B world. In the B2C world, what you'll notice now with a lot of subscriptions are just, cancel anytime or paid annually, right? So a key aspect of sales, again, to minimize the friction and to maximize your value in the sales activity that you do to create high impact, valuable conversations with the business, with your customers, is to understand where they are at in their life cycles of their technology, and then introduce conversations to renew that technology at a suitable time so that when it's time to recontract or renegotiate a new deal, the deal's already done. You don't have to do that hard work close to the buzzer, right? So generally, when do you do this? When do you bring up the conversation of a contract renewal or refreshing what they've currently got? I generally say if it's a 2-year contract, it's usually about 25% of the way through the contract. Or is it 25? No, it's probably less than that. But ignore that part. It's what I've written down here, which is what I should be doing, sticking to my script, is, it's 3 to 6 months before the expiry on a 2-year contract, depending on what kind of product it is. If it's like a mobile phone contract, which is what I did a lot, a conversation 3 to 4 months out is generally a good way to start the conversation and start checking what their experience has been. Anything from 3 years onwards is usually a 6-month plus conversations when you start having the conversation and start introducing the idea of talking about the recontract, right? Customers know it's coming, or sometimes they don't, right? But the idea is what you want to be doing, it's a soft sell, right? It's a feedback-led approach when you do life cycle selling. Basically, what you're trying to do is understand what the customer's sentiment or the experience has been with the product and gauge whether what are the roadblocks or what are the issues they have in them recontracting or renewing their current services with you, right? So when you have these conversations, the first thing you should ask is, how is it going? Are you enjoying the service? Are you enjoying what you're getting? Are there any problems that we need to help you with, right? Now, ideally, if you're in a portfolio for a couple of years, you should be in a portfolio for 2 years. That's my belief. You would probably know already what the experience is like for the customer, and you've probably developed that sentiment already of how they're feeling about the solution, and you can gauge it from there. But if there is a problem, 6 months out from a 3-year contract ending, this gives you time to solve the problem, rebuild the sentiment, warm the relationship up again, reduce the friction, and minimize your risk of them leaving, right? If you've got a great relationship with the customer and you know that they're happy, this is a great way for you to understand, right, okay, customer's great, I know they're not going anywhere, 6 months, hey, Mr. Manager, we're gonna renew this contract in 6 months, it's gonna cost about X dollars, lock it in. Right? And that deal is there. You've just got to make sure the customer's happy, you're ticking boxes, you've got the contract lined up, you're just doing the administrative tasks that are required to renew the contract, and that's it. There's no heavy lifting required to make sure that they stay with you. And that's a good way to go, all right, this deal's coming in X amount of months. Cool. Now I can focus my energies elsewhere, white space customers that have burning fires you need to attend to. That's how you know I'm going to hit my number in this amount of way here. Let me focus my energy somewhere else. Okay? So if you are having the challenges with churn and customers leaving, we'll save that for another day. But maintaining a great relationship and making sure they're looked after does 80% of the work, right? That's the Pareto's principle of it, is a great customer experience and their problems are solved. Because you think about it like this, right? It's like having a girlfriend, right? If you've had a girlfriend, you know that guys, it's having a girlfriend that there's nothing Facebook official, right? Or they don't have your initials and little love heart in their Instagram bio. Dudes are always going to be cracking onto your girl whether you like it or not. Other competitors are going to knock on their door. Hey, it's me from, if I'm at Cisco, hey, it's Mr. X from HPE, or it's Steve from Dell. Want to talk to you, having challenges with Cisco, having issues, blah, blah, blah. This is how we can solve your problem, make things better for you, right? If you don't have that relationship and that warmth and they're not loyal to you, then maybe they'll answer those DMs back. But you can't be too worried that people are going to knock on their door, right? Being an IT manager, being someone that someone can buy from and someone can derive value from you, that's what it feels like to be a girl, a hot girl, right? So that's a great way, that's a great analogy for for empathetic selling. It's like, when you're being sold to, right? You know when a salesperson wants something out of you. And that is like being a hot girl at a bar, right? You've got a big pair of jugs and all the boys want a piece. So they're all giving you, those little shifty eye glares, and you can feel them trying to get your attention, and they approach you, and you're like, I know what the fuck you want from me, mate. Back off, right? And if you've got a happy relationship, those dudes creeping on your girl, it won't matter because she's loyal to you. But if you don't keep her happy, maybe those eyes will wander. Maybe they'll slide the DMs back, and that's a key aspect of understanding why we're in the relationship sales game and why I focus on relationship management, portfolio management, right? Being a farmer instead of a hunter in the world of sales, because by creating these loyal customers, they're easier to retain, it's easy to generate revenue from, and it makes your effort as a salesperson much easier because, like we've said before, a trusted technology advisor, if you're a trusted technology advisor to your customers, negotiations become conversations, right? Vendors become partners, and then salespeople become trusted technology advisors. You're in the trusted ecosystem, right? And that's what we're trying to make you in this course. That's what I'm trying to teach in this course every single day, to make you a trusted technology advisor to all of your customers as much as you can, and to develop your sales skills so you can sell with ease to any customer at any time, right? That's the episode for this week about technology, sales, and solutions. Again, got two more of these. This is episode 8. Yeah, so 9 and 10, 2 more episodes. Then I'm going to go dark on you folks. Unfortunately, this has been so much fun. I do love talking to you guys all, but I need my energy back and my time back to create a great product. That's what I need to do. That's my focus. So 2 more eps, then a break. Again, quick plug. Ooh, lights just went on. Perfect timing. www.techsales.academy. I'm going to put a link in the description, whether you're on the interwebs or on YouTube or in the podcasts. The pre-sale is up now. Jump on board. Would love your feedback as well. If you've got any questions, any questions about the product that I'm going to create, I'm going to put a feedback form also on the YouTube. And nobody really copies and pastes from a podcast anyway, but a feedback form. Give me some information about you, what your problems are. I'm trying to craft this course for my target market. So if you are an early in career tech salesperson, you're an engineer that wants to understand the world of sales and business a little bit more, or you're a technology graduate that's thinking about getting into tech sales, this course is for you. Okay, so I've got a feedback form asking a lot of questions so I can understand the demographic and understand exactly how I can curate this course to your requirements so I really hit the nail on the head for you guys. So that's going to be out there as well. Yes, again, sign up for the pre-launch techsales.academy at Jamil J. Raymond on all the socials if you want to chat. And that's it. Thank you for your time and attention, bingers and random people that bump into this somehow. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you next week. Ciao for now.